You know, in those David Moyes press conferences, there's loads of national journalists in there, and they all ask him a load of questions, and I rarely feel that they ask questions that a West Ham fan would want to know in many respects. They're all quite generic. They're all, you know, oh, what formation you're going to play, David, you know, who's injured, all of this sort of stuff. Very, very nice. And that's all fine, because I do get it that a lot of them are not West Ham fans. They're national journalists, and they're not going to know the intricacies and the nuanced fineries of every little detail that's going on about the club. But so they're not going to ask the same things that we want to ask. There are some West Ham journalists in there. I mean, Moose is a West Ham fan, but he's not. He still asks the generic questions rather than the small detailed ones. Anyway, so I want you to join in with this. I've written down 10 questions which I would like to ask David Moyes. So if you've got a question, if everybody can't write down 10, by the way, otherwise there'll be quite a few questions. But I'd like to look at the comments on this video and then take those questions and the things you'd like to ask. So I've no doubt that you can think of things that I haven't even thought of yet. So I would start off, if I was able to sneak into that press conference. Actually, it's a Zoom call. And one of the first things I would ask would be actually about Josh Cullen. So my first question would probably be to David Moyes, would be, does he regret getting rid of Josh Cullen? Now, for those of you that don't know, Josh Cullen's actually gone to Anderlecht. I believe he's got the captaincy now, which would indicate that he's playing very well over there, and it's been a successful transition. And I do wonder if, given the frailties, maybe they are frailties. A lot of our squad are injured at the moment. I think it's fair. Okay, we'll go with frailties. Given the frailties of the squad and the precarious nature of only having really two midfielders who are head and shoulders above everybody else, does he regret letting Josh Cullen go? And I think I'd also like to know the reasoning behind letting Cullen go, because I'd sort of look at it and think he probably would have been useful to have around this season, and I think he is a high quality. I say high level. He's a quality operator. I think he plays really well, doesn't he? And I think he would have been an asset to our squad. And I don't know. Maybe he's quite a small player. Maybe David Moyes might think he's a little bit too small for the centre of the park or something. I don't know, but I would like to know the answer. It's not a case of all these questions being sort of questioning and doubting Moyes. I would just like to know. It's something that sprung up in my mind. Anyway, so that would have been question number one. I need my glass here for question number two. The question number two that I'd sort of like to ask is whether David Moyes would be confident of keeping his coaching team together. Because I personally, for all the noises that David Moyes makes, I think David Moyes is staying. I think David Moyes is signing a new contract at West Ham. The way he speaks would certainly indicate that. I rate Moyes as a manager. I should probably said that at the start of this video. I really do rate him. This is not about questioning him unnecessarily, but it's just things I want to ask. But I do think, as good a manager as I think he is, I think he has built a very, very useful coaching team around him who are very important to West Ham. Now, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. That's a good thing. Fergie was really good at that. And also Moyes is good at that as well. This is what he did at Everton. He brought in Steve Round as his number two, and he brought in a load of other coaches. And Steve Round was so impressive at Everton. Actually, Arteta has taken him as his assistant at Arsenal. So that's how good he is. So David Moyes always brings good coaches and surrounds himself with good people, as you should, as you absolutely should. But I would just like to know, is he confident of when he signs his new contract that Nolan is signing one, because he's a massive thing. Irvine's his number two and his trusted lieutenant. I would imagine Irvine would. Then you've also got Paul Nevin, don't forget. He's the architect between a lot of our set plays and all that sort of thing. And of course you've got Stuart Pearce, who I think don't get mentioned much, Pearcey, but as you know, because I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, I do think he's been a big part of this just the whole success that we've had. Obviously, I don't mean success we've had anything, but comparatively. Relegation team to team, competing for the top in the top half in the table is certainly success in one shape or another. So, would he be confident of keeping that team together and him signing contracts? Now, I am aware that if you were going to ask Moyes these questions, he could just come back with sort of strategic answers and PR spin. But I'm working on the assumption I'm getting honest, truthful answers here, but I'd certainly like to ask a question. A third one is maybe a little, it's one, you know, hopefully you would appreciate this one as well, is Harrison Ashby. And I would probably say to him, Moisty old son, Davy boy, I'd probably say to him, Harrison Ashby looks like a really good prospect for me. What are your thoughts on him? He looked really impressive in pre-season. Well, not only what are your thoughts on him, what are you planning to do with him? You know, have you got a strategy for the next 18 months in terms of a loan? Do you rate him highly? Again, I know Moyes would probably come back and say, I rate all the youngsters highly, blah, 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 blah. But it's not just questions I would like to ask. These are things I'd like to know. What are your plans with him? Because I think he looks absolutely superb. And if you are planning to get him out on loan, where do you see that being, for how long, and how are you going to integrate him you know, back into the team, basically, and get him involved in the squad? As I quite like what Moyes is actually doing with Ben Johnson. It's very slowly, but I do get the impression that Ben Johnson is going to start to feature more and more, and we'll see even more of him next season. Question number 4 would be the scouting system overhaul. And I'd probably like to let him know that we were all aware that when he got the job, there were no scouts, there were no dossiers, there was nothing. The cupboard was bare as old Mother Hubbard's cupboard scouting system. And there was nothing there. So I want to know how he's overhauling it, how he, obviously at the moment, I know they're watching a lot of videos, what he intends to do, who he's employing, and how he's going to sort of build up this database, because I was absolutely fascinated with the article that Gio alluded to when the guy went behind the scenes at Everton. He had these rooms with all the whiteboards up there and just all these lists of players. And I thought that was really, really interesting. It's just something I would like to know. I'd like to hear him talk about a little bit, really. And I guess this feeds into the other stuff with director of football and just a lot of the bits and pieces. And I guess it's his strategy, you know, for the club and moving forward. Question number 5 would be about Mikel Antonio, actually, I think, at the moment. And the striker, that'd be one question. I think at this point, Moyes is saying, how long is this going on for, mate? You know what I mean? You're asking a lot of questions there, but I do have 10, plus whatever ones you had. Mikel Antonio. And I think it's the switch from winger to striker, which we know. And I know he rates him highly, and I know he praises him highly, but I would like an honest conversation with him, which sort of plays into yesterday's video, which was, look, you know, he's not going to be fit for every game. He really isn't. So with that in mind, bearing him, you know, is he your number one guy? And I know he's not going to turn around and say, well, of course I'm a number one guy. But what's his strategy for the striker? I'd like to have an honest appraisal. I'd like him to, you know, almost admit, which we all know, which was that Haller wasn't suited to the system. So what's he going for? Why has he saved the money? And which I don't disagree with, by the way. Why has he saved the money? Who's he looking at? And when this guy comes in, is he going to be the number one guy? Are we saving up our money to buy a striker which is going to completely reinvigorate the way the team, not just is playing, but the way the team has performed? Because as I said yesterday, Mikel Antonio probably has the talent to score 15, 20 goals a season. What he doesn't have is, unfortunately, his body won't allow him to play that many games to score that many. So is this what we're doing? Are we bringing in a top quality striker to score 20 goals a season? Or are we just bringing in somebody to sort of fill in a little bit for Antonio when he's injured? I'd just be very interested to hear his thoughts on it and an honest appraisal of, because he talks about building the club up over a long period. That's got to be something that's factored in to his thinking, which sort of feeds in a little bit to my question number 6, which is European football. I'm sorry, I'm 9 minutes in. I'm only on question number 6. Hold on, we need to hurry up a little bit. Which goes into, that sort of ties into squad depth as well, doesn't it? And his scouting system. Also, I think with the European football, I get the impression he's trying to manage expectations. I think that's twofold. I don't just think he's trying to manage expectations in terms of, I don't want the West Ham fans dreaming of European football, so don't get disappointed. I don't think there's any stopping managing whatever anybody thinks. I think, I don't know, I think he thinks it's a little bit too early. He doesn't have the squad. And I'd just like to press him on that and see if sort of he agrees. And if he did get European football, would he still be prioritising the Premier League? And does he see it as an opportunity to blood the youngsters, or would he then be saying to the board, actually, I'm going to need 7 new signings or something like that? I think it would be very, very, very interesting to hear what he thinks about that. Question number 7, we've got to fly through these a little bit now, would be about Jesse Lingard. And that is, I have, number one, have you had a conversation with Jesse Lingard about I guess that'd be tapping up. I'd whisper that quietly. Moyes, have you spoken to Jesse's agent about signing on permanently? Something like that. I'd probably do that, right? But does he want to make it permanent? Is there a view? Has he? I know it's early doors. He's played basically 2 games. Another one hopefully later on today. I just want to know what his plans are, and if he does, then how is that going to impact some other players like Lanzini and so on and so forth, who we will discuss certainly later on in the week. So yeah, Jesse Lingard. Question number 8 is actually Declan Rice and Thomas Souček replacements, which I know very much that feeds into the scouting, all right? And I think we can't bury our heads in the sand. We can't pretend that we don't know that they're sought after, that clubs don't want to buy Declan Rice, don't want to buy Thomas Souček. I understand the club will turn around and say they're not for sale, that's it, but we know that that's not the truth. So what I would want to know with them is, and I do think it was a wonderful piece of business buying Souček, have you got your replacements lined up? Have you got them on this list, on these 3 blackboards, whiteboards, whatever projector screens, whatever you've got, are the names on there? Have you got a list of 3 or 4 replacements for each player there? Because obviously I do think that's vitally important. What we don't want to do is, as David Moyes tries to build, which is going to feed into question number 9, by the way, as David Moyes tries to build this thing, what we don't want is West Ham to be built like a Jenga tower, all right? We don't want one piece coming out, you know, when it's all a bit wobbly and you take out the Thomas Souček brick and it goes, we don't want that. We don't want that at all. That's not the sound effect for a Jenga falling over. It's more of a crash and a... But anyway, a bit wet that one, wasn't it? Anyway, so that's what I would like to know. Do you have the replacements lined up? David boy, do ya? Number 9 is the Everton model. And I just wonder if I think he's sticking around for a little while. I think he wants to. I would like to know his thoughts, and if he feels that he got burnt at Man United, and then when he went to Spain it didn't really work out, and then obviously Sunderland didn't work out. I wonder if that sort of scratched an itch for him now. I think if it was a case of the grass is greener, he had to look over and he thought, actually, I possibly was just better off at Everton. I wouldn't blame him for choosing to go to Man U when the opportunity arose, but I just wonder if he looks at it now and thinks, actually, I just want to do the same again. And if that is the case, and it is him looking at West Ham and thinking, I'm going to do a similar thing at West Ham that I did at Everton, how long does he see it taking? Is he ahead of schedule? I think he would suggest he is, which you are trying to manage expectations. But where do you see West Ham being? And, you know, what are your future plans for the club if you're allowed to implement all these things that we've already discussed in the previous questions, be it scouting system, director of football, so on and so forth? I just think that would be really, really interesting. I'd be very keen to find out. Question number 10. And I hope you don't feel I've wasted this question, but I want to know, this is my question, right? What's the deal with Pablo Fornals? What's the case? What are you doing with a fornicator, Dave? Is what I'd like to say. What's the deal with him playing on the left wing? I think I know, but I'd like him to say it, which is to protect Aaron Cresswell when he's playing at left back. But I think I'd like Dave to tell me, I'm talking, David boy, Moisty. Look, we're very. You remember he sent me that letter? He didn't. I was pretending. There were a few people when I did the thing, when I read out the letter from Davey Boy to Gonzo, it was pretend. I didn't. There were a couple of people who said, I can't believe he's actually written to you. He hadn't. I made it up. I lied, right? So anyway, what I'd like to know is, why do you persist? We know he has no pace there. Why do you not look for something different on the left? Are you not... What's the tactical plan, basically? Are you just not expecting any width from that position? You like him coming in? Are you concerned by the lack of pace? Actually, that should have been, damn it, that should have been question number 10 about the pace of the team. It should have been one of the questions, shouldn't it? Anyway, it's too late now, as I've recorded the video. Would you like, would you, can he play in central midfield? Do you see any future for him there? Or is he just going to be continually used as a wide player? Because I don't feel that it's getting the very best out of him, even though I mean, none of us would question his work rate and his work ethic. Anyway, there are my questions. What do you think? Let me know what you think. What would you like to ask David Moyes, Moisty, the Moisty boy? What would you like to ask him? Because, quite frankly, I think in his press conferences, not everyone, but by and large, he's being asked a load of rubbish.